All right, here we go. Q&A part two. Thanks everybody for your questions. It had been a little while, so I just thought, well, let's do a holiday. Yesterday was the first Sunday of Advent. Let's do an Advent Q&A. So Armored Ghost asks, what exercises should I do to build bouncer muscle? He's referring to the story that I told, the ego boost that I got when I was in New York City recently. And I was standing, I went inside the bar where I was supposed to meet Matt Forney and some other people, but they weren't there yet. I was a little early. So I exited the bar and stood outside under the overhang because it was sort of drizzling. Just stood there for a minute to get shelter, and an Asian woman walked up with her date, and she walked up first and looked at me and then sort of lowered her eyes and timidly asked for said two please, and I realized, oh, they think I'm the guy, you know, accepting or forbidding entrance to the bar. And I said, "Oh, I don't work for them." And she said, "Oh, I thought you were the bouncer." And I felt, absurdly, ego boosted after that. I think what I would say, Armored Ghost, is you just have to kind of be on the older side, like 40 plus, or maybe 30 plus, maybe above 30, and tall and bald and maybe not prone to smiling very much. And I think that maybe that's enough to sort of give you this kind of you know this bouncer kind of flavor, if you will. um, So, do you keep? Armor goes asked, "Did you keep? Do you keep up with the Z-Man in his blog?" I said, "Remind me who the Z-Man is." And then he apparently wrote back, but it got censored for some stupid reason. It got deleted. Okay, but then so I did look up the Z-Man uh, uh, in his blog, and what I said before, I just got a little bit of a uh, don't think I had ever read him before. I don't think I had been aware of the Z-Man before you spoke of him. Again, there was sort of like this, uh, and I'm not saying this to be critical, um, but from my perspective, there was a little bit of this black pill kind of atmosphere about, like he was talking about how they're already encircling Elon Musk and Twitter's going to fail. The new Twitter's going to fail because the powerful people are going to make sure that it fails. And like let's just see what happens first. I'm not saying believe in Elon Musk. I'm not necessarily saying that. I'm not necessarily. I look on everybody with suspicion, especially rich, powerful people. But let's just see how things play out. Um, Obviously, he's if he's to the extent to which he is really a free speech kind of person. The anti-free speech left are against him, and a lot of the oligarchs are against the new Twitter. But I mean, let's just see how it unfolds. Let's not just immediately say, "Oh, well, it's going to fail. It's going to fail because everything that's good fails." But again, I don't mean that as a criticism. I don't. I only got a bit of an impression of the Z-Man, and he seems to write well. But I don't have. No, I don't keep up with him. That was your question. I didn't even know about him. Um, JTS, can I create money out of nothing also? Of course you can. Um, I presume you're talking about fiat currency, um, and the problems with it, or maybe this is a reference to what recently happened with virtual currency, which I am too dumb, I'm too dense to understand. Uh, except that there was some fraud perpetrated. But anytime, like, economic sort of questions come up, I'm not the person to consult. Even when I find it interesting, even like the whole, like when people were buying stock in AMC and GameStop, I thought that was all really interesting and funny, and the trust funds were getting uh, uh, getting stuffed, by the common people, defiantly buying up these shares and these companies that were considered destined to fail. I thought that was interesting, but I didn't really understand the nuts and bolts of it. All right. When Eagles Dare asks, as a Catholic and extremely based on the ruling class, that would be me, yes, would you be really okay? He would be really interested in my take on the film Spotlight, similar to the way Devin Stack breaks down subversiveness in movies. Again, I've never forgiven Devin Stack for his for for him. I mean, speaking of blackpill, he had the his very page is called, or his channel was called Blackpilled, right? So there you go. But his when he was down on Joker, I was sort of that that hit me where it hurt, and I sort of I recorded a video where I responded to his takedown of Joker, because I was a big fan of Joker, still am. I don't think everybody, and I think I think artists, people with goodwill, people who intend for the good, can work within the evil system that is the entertainment industry, and that occasionally greatness can be achieved by someone like Scorsese or Kubrick, or, in my opinion, the a movie like Joker. Um, but you want to know my take on Spotlight? Um, I saw the movie Spotlight like years ago, and I think I saw it when it was out, and it was about the priest scandal, uh, and the cover up, in the Boston area. Why do you think they allowed it to be made? Timing of release. I mean, well, I mean, they are obviously anti-Catholic, um, and so I don't think that they have any problem with exposing, uh, a scandal within Catholicism. And of course, they've infiltrated the church in a lot of ways. Um, so why do you think they allowed it to be made? I mean, we are talking about the same movie. Let me just make sure we're talking about the same movie. Hang on. Yeah, we're talking about the same movie. I mean, they allowed it to be made because they hate Catholicism, and this is a movie that showed Catholicism in a poor light. Now, uh, uh, don't misunderstand me. I do think that the Catholic hierarchy behaved abominably, and in many cases, and deserved to be skewered. So I'm not saying otherwise here, but like, I think that's why Hollywood was fine with exposing, child molesting Catholic priests, and bishops who covered up for priests' misbehavior, and so forth. They weren't so fine about people in Hollywood being exposed in that way. Um, uh, but there's your answer. I don't know if there's something you're asking that I'm not. If there's some subtlety in your question that I'm just not getting right now. Uh, okay. He goes on to say, one starting thing I'd put out is that's one of the positive framing of the media, rather than in the movie Spotlight, the media are the good guys and the Catholics are the bad guys. I mean, of course that's something that they would want to frame positively. When in truth, I mean, when most of the time the media are, I mean, the mainstream media, the moneyed media, the mockingbird media, they're not really out there exposing things and going against, uh, the agenda or whatever, or challenging the powerful. So that's why I think that movie was allowed to be made. I don't know about the timing. It came out in 2015. Was there something about the timing there? I'm not sure. Um, okay, moving on. Mikey Litchfield says YouTube deleted my comment. Pretty sure it wasn't you. It wasn't me. I didn't delete anyone's comments. My question was, what are some of your theories on the poke, and what are some places you would like to travel outside of the U.S.? All right, my theories on the poke. Um, I mean, I've talked about this, I think, at some length. Yeah, my theories on why it was promoted, why it continues to be promoted, why they cover for, you know, its supposed safety and effectiveness and all of that. Without being too direct here, and we all know what we're talking about. The Baj, right? I call it the Baj. I mean, I think it got promoted because of eugenics. I think the ruling class are ardent eugenicists, and they are depopulationists. And that's why I think it was promoted. I go into some detail about the depopulation agenda elsewhere. I don't want to repeat myself here. I don't want to, just like with the blackpilling thing, I don't want to become tiresome uh, or repeat myself too much. But that's why I think that's my theory regarding that. So places I would like to travel outside of the U.S. I'd like to go a lot of. I mean, I have a curiosity about just about everywhere. Um, but places that I'd really like to go, I think top of the list would be Japan. I really find Japan completely fascinating, and would love to visit. Would love to visit there. But as I understand it, I have to get the poke to get to get to go there right now, and I'm not willing to do that. Um, so hopefully that'll change. Who knows? But I've been to a lot of places. Um, I've been to England several times. I've been several places in Europe. It'd be fascinating to go back there. Even with all the problems they're having right now, especially I think with the problems that they're having right now. Um, I can't think of anywhere. I've also been to South Africa. Some of you probably know. That was a fascinating trip. I would love to go just about everywhere in the world, but if you want to, if you're talking about a place where I have if you said you get a free pass anywhere in the world, I would opt for Japan. Answer your question there. Helper asks, what was World War II about? Oh, you want to ensnare me with a question like that. What was it about? It was about a lot of things. One of the things it was about was the very poor treatment that the losers of World War One received. The Versailles Treaty, and how Germany was humiliated, and what that produced, the backlash that was produced by the humiliation of Germany under the Versailles Treaty. I think maybe that's, if we want to take, there are plenty of lessons to take from any world, any grave tragedy, like World War II certainly was. But that's the angle I'll take with your question. There's lots of ways I could answer your question, but this is the way that I'm going to answer it. I'm an amateur armchair historian, but it's my understanding that Lincoln, after the Civil War was over, that Lincoln was planning to be gentle in his treatment of the South. That he was not gentle during the execution of the war, and I believe he was a war criminal. I'm not a Lincoln apologist at all by any means, or a Lincoln enthusiast. I think the way he prosecuted the war was awful, and again, and the suspension of habeas corpus. He basically ruled as a dictator during the war as it was going on. But when the war was over, I think that he thought he just did what he needed to do. He justified it in some way or other, and the goodness that resided in him, because I don't think he was completely evil. I think he was a good man who did evil, who did a lot of evil things. He's a complicated man, okay, but he was planning to not be harsh with the South, even though the radical Republicans wanted this very draconian treatment of the southern states, the states who had seceded. Lincoln was not favoring that approach. And if he hadn't been assassinated, it's one of those tragic ironies of history. If he hadn't been assassinated, we probably wouldn't have had the years of Reconstruction, which were such a blot on history, the history of the United States, and such a humiliation for the South and for southern states, and created such bitterness in the South that affected lots of things, including race relations. I would draw. There's a sort of tragic parallel that can be drawn with World War One, with the end of World War One, the treatment of Germany, and obviously the backlash that took place due to the poor treatment of Germany by the victors of World War One, and that created the ideology that predominated, that eventually pushed things along to it's more complicated than that, but it was one of the factors that led to World War II. And so the lesson to be learned is to be magnanimous with magnanimous in victory, to treat those you have defeated in war in a way that shows that you see their humanity, rather than that rather than in a manner that puts on display your thirst for petty vengeance, and which only leads to greater tragedy and more bloodshed and more uh, general ill will. So I'll end my I'll end part 2 of my Q&A here. Thanks everybody for watching. Stay tuned for part 3.